Hi everyone, sorry we're the first group to go, so we'll just sit down here I guess. I'm Sally, and I'm joined with Anisha and Radhika, our fourth research member. Samantha couldn't join us today, so we'll be presenting, and our project this year was on the School of Public Policies. We looked at the curriculum for the SPP and looked through it for inclusivity and diversity measures. This is the third year that a project of this sort has happened under the umbrella of the SPP's Women's Network, but this is the first year that we've had Change Makers funding for it. So we have a lot to get through, so we'll go ahead and start moving through.
So just to give you guys a brief background of what exactly it is that we set out to do, and again, a brief overview of how we went about it. The reason why we wanted to do this report in the first place a couple of years ago was to inquire into the perception and experiences of staff and students in terms of the diversity, representation, as well as inclusion in the SPP's curriculum. We wanted to look at this because we think that especially for our degrees, the MPA and MPP programs, as well as the executive MPP and MPA, which is not something that we have focused on here, but again, it's something previous reports have focused on. We think those things are especially important for these programs in order for us to become effective policymakers, since most of our cohorts are extremely international. I think it's over 90% almost. And a lot of people from our cohorts go out of the LSE and into different contexts across the world. So understanding how to navigate these different issues in contexts which have very different kind of nuances is something that we believe is valuable and important. We looked at the reading lists and course content of every single module across the MPA as well as the MPP. And we quoted these based on regional as well as ethnic diversity of case studies and authors in the reading lists. We did this for two reasons. One is to provide comparable metrics so we can track progress across reports in the years that we've done them. And the second is that these are the things for which, again, we had data available, and we thought this was a good first step in understanding how to improve upon the current curriculum.
To give you a bit of a background of how we went about this, before we actually went to the course content and the reading lists, we thought it was important to engage all the people involved in the SPP. So we reached out to 13 staff members, out of which we interviewed 5. This was based on their understanding of what a diverse and inclusive curriculum would look like, and what is the process of creating a curriculum in the first place, and if they wanted to make changes, how do they go about it? And if there was scope of improvement within the SPP curriculum, and how would they think it looks like. And all the staff members that we interviewed agreed that we require diversification in the curriculum, and there are some systemic barriers in doing so that they were also keen on looking forward with. With the students, we conducted a survey with the entire SPP department, of course, out of which we received 60 responses. Most students agreed that they do value diversity and inclusivity in the curriculum, which was extremely valuable to them. And they also ranked them based on what kind of diversity they're looking at. Is gender really important for them? Is ethnicity important? Is regional diversity important? But all in all of the students agreed that it is important to look at curriculum and the reading lists beyond just one particular lens of what their professor was teaching, and it needs to be more inclusive of various regions, given that the classroom is diverse, and hence we need to cater to the needs of everyone there.
So a bit on how we did this, as Radhika mentioned, we chose not to look at the executive Masters of Public Administration and executive MPP programs, only because the way that those two programs are structured under our school is vastly different than the way that the regular MPP and MPA program are structured. So of these two programs, we looked at 29 compulsory and elective courses, not including any student-led research courses. So we didn't include capstone, we didn't include policy paper, things of that nature. So once we figured out which courses we wanted to look at, we reached out to the library, who sent us over a massive file with every single essential reading in all of those 29 courses. Thankfully, the report that looked at this last year did similar information, so we were able to overlay this year's reading list with last year's, find duplicates, find new readings, delete similar readings, and there were 4 new courses that we had to go in and code by hand again. One of the biggest, if not the biggest limitation to this is that we view gender through a binary lens and we use the UK's definition of BAME. We did these two things because we were going off of public information available. We were searching the internet for what gender these authors were, where they were from, and we didn't want to misgender someone. So if things weren't included, we deleted all of those units from our analysis, which resulted in 159 entries being dropped from the final data set because either gender wasn't specified, ethnicity wasn't specified, and we didn't want to misgender or misidentify any individual. The new component of this report that the four of us decided to include this year was the course content analysis. And again, with all these 29 courses, we analyzed the lecture material for every course to identify what countries and regions were being discussed in the course. The reason we chose lectures is because we wanted to capture what the majority of students were experiencing. In a lot of our courses in the SPP, one course could have 4 different seminars, each with a different seminar leader. And those leaders could bring in different readings if they wanted to, different examples that not every individual in the course was being taught. So we really wanted to look at what every student in the SPP was interacting with course material. We self-enrolled on Moodle into every course. We went through the lecture content, whether this was PowerPoints that the professors were giving, case studies that were specifically assigned for lecture discussions. We went through all of this, and each country and each region in one lecture was coded as its own specific data entry. So if the United Kingdom was mentioned 4 times in week 3 for one course, we coded it 4 different times. We really just wanted to see how much a course was relying on a specific country or region. So we went through this really quickly. I'm sure there were some nuances in the methodology that I've passed over, but happy to answer questions about it later.
Moving to the results, this is results just for the 3 compulsory courses on the MPA, which are mainly political science for public policy, economics, and econometrics. And we've broken them down according to region. This is just for the compulsory courses, and we've also included results as an aggregate of all of the 29 optional courses that we've coded. So as you can see, we were actually surprised that it was a little more representative than last year, so that's good news. But a lot of the examples are still focused on Europe, with a lot of regions like the Middle East, which is completely just not represented in any of these at all. So we definitely think there's a lot of room for improvement here, and the complete breakdown of every single course according to region is in the larger report. If anyone is interested in analyzing that, I'm looking at it.
This is the second component that Sally was speaking about, which is looking at all the reading lists for all the courses. When we look at, this is again only for the MPA compulsory courses, and the first bar that you see is based on gender, which is red and blue, and the second is based on whether the author of that particular reading was from the category BAME or they were not. As you can see, BAME authors are very, very underrepresented in this. Even female authors are very underrepresented, and these are only 3 compulsory courses that we're showing on this particular slide. If you look at the right side of the particular slide, you can see that out of all the 29 SPP courses that we encoded, the representation of women authors was only 21%. This is out of 29 SPP courses, and the percentage of BAME authors is 16%. If we interact the 2 characteristics and include both BAME and women authors, it decreases to 15%, which is representative of the kind of diversity we presently have in the curriculum based on gender and ethnicity.
So the culmination of this report is in short and long-term policy recommendations for our department. When we met with the different staff and administrators of the SPP, they all seemed like they wanted to help, like they wanted to make some changes, and so hopefully they'll do some of these, and we've expanded upon each of these in the actual report. Quickly for the short-term ones, one of the main ones is to include the regional breakdown of content in courses. When you look at the compulsory courses that you have to take, they might not change, and we acknowledge that the professors just might not want to change that. That's an uphill battle that someone else can fight next year. But with the optional courses, if students are from, say, South or Latin America and they want to move back there were 3 courses that were really heavily focused on South and Latin America, and most of the course content that was from that region came from those 3 courses. That should be public information to students before they sign up to the course. We just want the SPP to be more transparent about this from the start. Also, we want them to implement different surveys that ask about inclusivity and diversity in the programs, things of that nature. And I'll pass it to you for long-term in our last minute.
For the long-term recommendations, we know that it's a huge change to completely change the curriculum and the reading lists. But in the long term, we would want the SPP to make this an annual thing where they look at the curriculum, keep going back to it and check for gender and inclusivity. And also the second recommendation, making it transparent. We always talk about the student diversity we have. Maybe it's time we talk about our curriculum diversity. So making it a part of the website and showing the kind of representation we have in our curriculum as well, and actually making sure that it's as international as we claim it to be. And also creating an SPP EDI committee. Again, this is highly far-fetched, but their job would just be making sure that they're actually helping the professors create those kind of resources and help them out with it, because it's too much of an ask for the professors to keep going and changing their curriculum. So if there's any support available for that, and if there's some collaboration between the SPP and other departments, if students want to focus on, like Sally said, a particular region, or including different kinds of gender and ethnicities within the courses that we presently have, which we don't see so much of an interaction with, would be a long-term recommendation from our end.
And that's our presentation and research.